All right, welcome everybody. Part two of our Love Your Guts mini masterclass. Just a little bit of recap from the class that we started on Friday. First of all, the reason this is relevant to the majority of people watching is literally 74% of Americans have some sort of serious gut health issue, whether that's acid reflux or dysbiosis or leaky gut syndrome or irritable bowel or something that affects their absorption or inflammation levels in their body. And absorption of nutrients is a huge factor in long-term illness, and inflammation, of course, affects basically every major illness, whether that's arthritis, heart attacks, cancer, pain, all these things are linked to problem in the gut. In fact, even just a study I've read in between these two classes was on how having healthy gut bacteria helps type 2 diabetics. So really all of us, but the study was done on type 2 diabetics, regulate their blood sugar levels. So, affects so many things. And lastly, which is also relevant to a high percentage of people, your gut affects your serotonin or hormone, happiness, anxiety, depression, as well as your immune system, which of course is a huge topic right now. So, take a listen to part two. Think about your action steps. And one little key warning here: those of you that are turning in the mystery words, today is a two-part word. So there will be one at some point in the middle and one at the end to make sure everybody's watching this all the way through. I'm sure you are, but there's a few people who are just looking for the mystery word. So happy Tuesday morning, very early. If you're wondering why you can see all the lights in the background here, had to do this one before anybody got up at my house. So it's just after 4 this morning, but here we go. So healing in the gut. How do you heal your gut naturally? So starting with what we like to call the process for true identification of how to heal. So first of all, identify the cause. If you were going to say the biggest difference between natural and allopathic medicine or healing or whatever you want to say, while in some cases both identify the cause, in many cases allopathically, as far as medication or whatever, you're going to not identify the cause, but treat the symptom. And even if the cause is identified, a lot of times the healing of the cause is not treated. For instance, with acid reflux medicine, neutralizing the amount of acid produced, but not getting the body to actually produce a different amount. Therefore, long-term, the medication is chronically required to manage the symptom instead of over time the body healing itself. So identify the cause, address whatever the interference is. So a big thing for gut related is gut bacteria, holes in the intestinal tract, the right amount of acid being produced in the stomach, just as well as support of the other digestive organs, which is the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas for detoxification, bile for absorption of fats, and insulin for absorption or pulling the sugar out of your bloodstream and into the cells to be turned into energy. Lastly, once you've identified the cause and restored the interference, address the interference, you're going to, of course, restore your vitality or your health. So one of the things that we didn't really dive into a whole lot yet is the biggest thing for most people, which is poor nutrition. So gut health is affected by poor nutrition in both the quality of the food and the toxicity level from preservatives and chemicals in it. For those of you that have watched previous classes, you know that there are literally thousands of chemicals that are allowed to be put in processed food that do not have to be listed on the label. They do not have to be listed in the ingredient list. For example, the anti-foaming agents that are going to be on potato chips, something like that. So we're going to go over the top 5 foods to avoid for gut health, starting with sugar and artificial sweeteners. So these are possibly the most prevalent in the anti-fat movement that has been going on for well over 40 years. Sugar has been added in the replacement of fats for lower calorie content per size to some degree, but sugar adds flavor. So sugar is addictive. It causes an insulin response in your body. So when you consume sugar, you get an immediate, quick serotonin high, followed by, within about 20 seconds, a larger serotonin decline, therefore causing your body to crave more sugar. If you look at it from an evolutionary standpoint, it's estimated that most people would go days or possibly even months without sugar. So part of why sugar can lead to overeating is that when a human that was not always did not always have abundance of food available, they could essentially consume more food during that day, store body fat for use later. Now, in today's day and age, very few people are truly starving, but there are lots of people that are nutrient deficient. In fact, that was shown in America to be very prevalent, that there's a whole lot of people that are significantly overweight, but also malnourished because they're not getting enough vitamins and minerals. Ergo, why I think it's so important to take a whole food multivitamin on a daily or a very regular basis. But sugar affects the insulin that your body produces. If you consume a lot of sugar, it's going to overproduce, and what happens over time is insulin resistance. So your cells can no longer take as much sugar in for energy, and that's, in a nutshell, exactly what type 2 diabetes is, which is why if you completely cut sugar or do the advanced plan, for many people, their diabetes can or will reverse. Additionally, artificial sweeteners, these are even harder on your body. So some people think they're doing a better job by using Splenda or something like that. And any of these artificial sweeteners in most cases are a sugar molecule with a chemical link to it so that your body can't absorb it. Unfortunately, what happens with artificial sweeteners is that they cause an insulin dump into the bloodstream, and they still cause you to get more hungry. And so there's all sorts of studies, whether it's studies on regular pop versus diet pop, that show that people that use artificial sweeteners gain more weight. And there's a few that even show that people who use artificial sweeteners have higher levels of hormonal imbalances, but they also negatively affect your gut bacteria. So if you're talking about what feeds the wrong gut bacteria, or what can alter your gut bacteria by creating, the study that you're seeing on this page is inducing glucose intolerance. So I'm going to make that a little bit bigger on the page here. But artificial sweeteners increase glucose intolerance is what's being shown. So if you'd like to research that study, you can pull that up bigger on your computer and read all about it. But one of the top 5 things that are very bad for your gut are over-consuming sugar and or artificial sweeteners. Best options, if you have to, for a sweetener is stevia. So stevia is, again, an herb that it can be grown in this area that has a sweetening effect. Still has a few mild downsides. So staying more whole food and more natural is still better. But for instance, like our protein powder, stevia is the sweetening ingredient. It's much better for you than the sugars or artificial sweeteners, which really brings me to my first action step point in far as a positive. Making a breakfast smoothie in the morning is a great way to really help your gut health. So a breakfast smoothie that I would strongly recommend is some sort of berry. So some sort of low glycemic fruit, multiple types of healthy fats, whether that's coconut milk, almond milk, blending some sort of nuts or seeds, everything from, I really like sprouted pumpkin seeds because they're shown to be anti-parasitic for those of you trying to kill parasites. I like rotating, almonds and cashews and some different things like that, some flaxseed or flax oil, but rotating the different types of healthy fats. And also a great way to get some vegetables. So for instance, spinach is very minimally taste it in a smoothie. It doesn't make it very pretty color, but buying a big container of spinach, throwing it in the freezer, and then, throwing spinach in. And then the only thing you're missing is protein. So you can, you can get protein a variety of ways, but my personal favorite is to use one of the Max Living protein blends. We have 3 different types. We have plant protein, whey protein, and pure path protein, which is a mineral bone broth protein. I personally rotate mostly whey and bone broth protein. In some reasons, just flat out for taste. The plant protein is excellent, and it's even a little bit more cost effective, but it also it's a little chalkier. So number 2 in foods to avoid, gluten. So gluten is especially important to avoid for some people because of genetic modification. So to produce more grain or more wheat, as you probably would expect, over the last especially 30 years, their companies have now modified grains. So for instance, what you see in the field, if you're in Illinois, is typically a dwarf wheat, which can hold a lot of grain for its size, but it's, again, genetically modified, and gluten is a very cheap byproduct of this. So it's naturally occurring, and you could even argue that your body should be able to handle some level of gluten, but the amounts that are consumed. And then also the reason why I bring up genetic modification is very simply that genetically modified foods, your body is less able to understand them because it hasn't been in existence for hundreds or thousands of years. So your genetics haven't been adaptive. Now, I will say that gluten is not always the culprit. So it's the easiest. If you're having digestive issues, avoiding gluten and dairy to see if you have an intolerance to those 2 things is the simplest, most cost-effective thing to cut out. However, in our integrative clinic, Abby, nurse practitioner Abby, can test you for all sorts of food allergies. So there are ways to be tested to see what are you allergic to. So you're possibly, not avoiding gluten and consuming a bunch of, let's say, rice or something like that. And actually you might be more allergic to rice than gluten. So there are tests that can be done. As I mentioned in the last masterclass, we can test up to 600 foods at a time, where in the traditional medical community, the highest number on average is 39. So a much larger amount, but avoiding gluten. Conventional meats. Now, you heard a lot about this in the first one. For conventional meats should be avoided because of their fat and pesticide content. The bad fats. Conventionally grown red meat, for instance, this corn-fed, has lots of very inflammatory fats in it versus grass-fed meat, which does not have near the level of inflammatory fats. They also hold a lot of toxins. And as I mentioned last time, conventionally grown meat, so chickens that are jammed into cages, animals that are kept in pens or small feedlots, I understand why it could make it cheaper and more available for people. Unfortunately, it also makes it less healthy for people. So those animals are often fed a massive amount of antibiotics. The antibiotics are not all processed in their body. Some are stored in their meat. And then when you consume them, those antibiotics go through your digestive tract and kill off the bacteria in your gut. And if you kill off the the bacteria in your gut, you tend to get bad bacterial overgrowth, which can cause bloating, ulcers, acid reflux, IBS. I mean, all sorts of stuff. So organic meats are much better in that, and especially grass-fed, free-range, no antibiotics ever. Next up, damaged or altered fats. So if you've been in the clinic in the last week and a half, you've seen our display, which has McDonald's food, cheeseburgers, chicken nuggets that we've had for years. Now think about this. How can you possibly have meat, cheese, and bread, 2 of which are supposed to need to be refrigerated or frozen to not go bad, and one that's supposed to go bad within a few weeks, sit there for years, and the only thing they are or look different than they did when they were purchased is they're smaller, because over time the water has evaporated out of them. They're dehydrated. In fact, I counted more than 10 kids yesterday in the clinic wanted to lift the glass container. So we have it covered in a glass case, not because it can't be exposed to air, but to protect little kids from grabbing them and taking a bite and getting very sick. Now think about that. That has to be so processed and damaged. And if nature can't deteriorate it, if the food doesn't rot, a lot of food is rotting or broken down by, microorganisms. If they don't even want to eat that, how can that possibly bring you any level of health or true sustenance? But processed fats, the stuff that's deep fried, the stuff that's in lots of breads and chips and all that kind of stuff, it's denatured. It's high in omega-6s, which are inflammatory, and it's inflammatory to your gut. So again, eating whole foods, less processed foods, and we're going to go into some of the what to eat and why here in just a moment. But lastly, alcohol. Alcohol, there's certain types that have benefits. For instance, the polyphenols in red wine at low consumption levels are actually shown to be positive in your digestive health. There's certain studies that show that low to moderate amounts of alcohol can relax your digestive tract because alcohol causes muscular relaxation so they can let flow through. But higher consumption of alcohol can actually over-relax, cause things like diarrhea, affect absorption, affect dehydration. They can kill off bacteria in the gut. It can weaken the intestinal lining, therefore making you more likely to have leaky gut, especially if you're taking things like painkillers, NSAIDs, Tylenol, whatever it might be. So alcohol has a few benefits, but any high consumption of alcohol is very hard on your body and increases stress. It's also linked to ulcers. So alcohol is something to avoid. Now, when you talk about a gut health nutrition plan, we're going to talk about the advanced plan. We're going to talk about a few just foods to eat routinely. So you want to have, first of all, raw foods whenever possible. So raw foods, especially raw fruits and vegetables, and nuts have digestive enzymes in them that in general help you break things down more effectively. Now they might digest slower. So for instance, like raw nuts and raw vegetables digest slower in your system, but these enzymes can be very helpful in affecting digestion. The healthy fats, such as like avocados that are raw, have great saturated fats that can help with digestion, can also help you feel full. So as far as emptying out of your body, one of the problems with having high sugar, high carb meals is they get out of your stomach quickly. And not only do they affect you not getting enough nutrients, but you get hungry again more quickly. Carbs tend to exit your stomach within 30 minutes, protein 60, fats 90. So you tend to feel more full if you have more fat consumed. So fruits, vegetables, nuts, healthy fats like avocados, and protein. These are things, balanced amounts of protein, 20 to 30 grams per meal. This is a nice way to help your gut digest more effectively. Going over 30 grams of protein per meal can be hard on your digestive tract. Now, the advanced plan, which if you're looking, you could also call this the anti-inflammation plan. You could call it a gut health plan. You could call it good for probiotics and prebiotics. Prebiotics essentially are certain types of fiber that are occurring naturally in many fruits and vegetables that help feed the gut bacteria in your body. I mentioned a little bit about this. Lots of different fruits and vegetables, even coffee have prebiotics in them. So there's a lot of good things, but you're going to find it sounds simple and it might maybe sound too simplistic, but you just really need to consume more fruits and vegetables and more raw foods when you can. But the advanced plan has 5 simple rules. It's cutting all grains, all processed grains, breads, rices, pastas, only eating low glycemic fruits, and specifically trying to stick with berries. So low glycemic fruits, you can look up on Google, but there are other, besides berries, like Granny Smith apples, lemons, limes, grapefruit. There's certain types of cherries. They're all low glycemic, but additionally, increasing your healthy fats, moderating your protein, like I just talked about, and avoiding toxins. That's the advanced plan. That's the healthy gut healing diet, or whatever. People tend to lose weight, but more than that, it's not just losing weight. It's actually having your body adapt to a healthier looking. So it's taking the right kind of fat off so you look better. But that inflammation, as you take, as your body likely loses weight with the advanced plan, that inflammation reduction can really help in all sorts of disease processes. It's going to give you more energy. And for those of you that don't need to lose weight, it helps with building lean muscle. So for instance, like famously Tom Brady, who's going to be 44 this year in the NFL, eats the advanced plan, so strict advanced plan minus tomatoes, minus mostly nightshades, like even peppers and certain things that are really can be very good for you. But that's what he famously eats all the time. And he's, a starting quarterback in the NFL at 44. So the last key points that we're going to go through, we're going to call it the 3 R's, but of healing your gut. First of all, remove the stuff that causes damage, like we just talked about, especially those top 5 things like the gluten, the toxins, the things that are causing damage to your gut. Getting healthier to remove or not need medication. Secondly, repair. Put the right stuff in. So one of the things that we're going to go over is some supplements that can help with repairing your gut. Now, first of all, the 2 that I want to really accentuate are the ones that I mentioned in the first gut class. Number 1, Max GI. Max GI is something that if you're getting bloating, reflux, if you feel like you just have bad bacterial or bad imbalance, possibly even things like ulcers, the Max GI is a great supplement to consume. So you're going to take at least 1 bottle to see if you notice a difference, but then take it for 3 to 4 months straight. And then I would recommend 1 to 2 bottles a year as maintenance. Very similar for detoxification. So the detox system is 2-part system where you take 2 pills in the morning, 2 pills at night. You don't have to run to the bathroom. You're going to typically have a larger bowel movement or an extra one. And the key to the detox is to drink lots of water because you're binding to the toxins. It helps your liver. It helps your digestive supporting organs and can make a big, big difference. So those are the big 2. And the recommendations are the same. If you haven't detoxed in several years, I would do 3 in a row and then 1 to 2 a year. If you need more than that, or you want more help or more in-depth help, our Mountain program and Gut Heal and Seal program that can be applied for through the integrative clinic can be done through making an appointment with nurse practitioner Abby and doing so. Now, some people for a period of time do need to supplement with digestive enzymes and or fiber. So digestive enzymes can help if your stomach is just not good at breaking down food as effectively. So digestive enzymes, Max Living carries a great digestive enzyme product. We do not carry it in the clinic. So there are certain products that you just need to get through the website. So write in the comments. I put our website, rockford.maxliving.com. Again, rockford.maxliving.com. You can order digestive enzymes. So take those if you feel like you just have trouble moving food through your digestive tract. And then fiber. So some people just don't get enough fiber. So fiber, for instance, like we talked about last time, if you're not getting enough fruits and vegetables, but you're eating a lot of meat, it takes about 5 days for meat to get through your digestive tract. And it can take longer if you're not getting enough fiber. So we carry a Pure Path fiber. Again, you can get that through the website. Helping with your digestive tract, another key is omega-3s. You're going to get mostly through fatty fish like salmon, tuna, things like that. For fatty fish, the key is wild caught. You want to see wild caught on the label. The big reason that omega-3s affect your digestive tract is not for the bacteria necessarily, but they lower the inflammation, and they're even shown to possibly turn off certain inflammation genes. Now, I think that's a key point, because if you're like, well, I've had this disease, my mom had this disease, my sister, my grandparent, whatever, keep in mind they've now shown for well over 20 years that every human has the majority of genes for most common diseases, heart disease, cancer, and the like. But what they talk about is something called epigenetics. It's kind of like a light switch. I woke up this morning, walked downstairs, flipped the light switch, and the lights turned on. The light bulb that could work was always in the light, but I had to turn on the switch. When I leave the room, I often turn off the switch, and again, then the light goes out, even though the light bulb still works. That's a similar analogy for your genes. So in families tend to eat similar things. They tend to be exposed to similar things. They tend to live in the same household. They tend to live in the same community. And so often you'll turn on and off similar genes to those of the people around you. And so omega-3s can help to turn off inflammatory genes. But think about, like, if your intestine is this big, but the swelling on it takes it all the way down to here because it's so inflamed, it's gonna be more difficult to move things through. If you have impaction of cheap meat on the walls of your intestines, it's gonna be tougher to move things through. So consuming things that move stuff through your gut, lower the inflammation, expand the space, can make a big difference. Third R, re-inoculate. That's a big word, just basically means take probiotics, re-inoculate. So because you're not going to be able to perfectly turn off your eating perfect is very difficult. Most people eat out a little bit. Most people don't buy organic all the time. And so getting some level of probiotics, which you can get naturally, you don't necessarily have to consume them in a supplement, but getting probiotics from raw fruits and vegetables from your garden is a good way to do that. But additionally, we put probiotics in our vitamin D. Again, in Northern Illinois, most people are going to be vitamin D deficient, even in the summer, with working inside, with not getting out for that 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. sun, with putting too much sunscreen on. So vitamin D and probiotics, our maintenance dose, or what I would consider, without being tested, a good maintenance dose of probiotics would be about 10 billion a day, which is, again, exactly what's in our vitamin D. Yogurt and stuff like that has an average of 2 billion, I believe. And most of that's added back in because, for instance, yogurt has to be pasteurized by current FDA regulations. So they actually kill the naturally occurring probiotics and then add the cultures back in. But things like fermented foods, kimchi, kefir, sauerkraut, raw, or you can't get raw yogurt, but organic grass-fed yogurt. I mean, these are good sources of probiotics, but also many people are going to just basically take them in a supplement. If you ever take an antibiotic, it's important to get 50 billion probiotics or more for a month. And we do carry that product as well. I mentioned this earlier, but probiotics helping with type 2 diabetes and control. I also mentioned earlier, if you were talking about from a nutrient standpoint, what's the one supplement you should take? Nearly every person needs to take a whole food, men's or women's multivitamin, to balance or restore the nutrition that's missed by either not eating perfect or from the other foods, nutrient depletion from the soil and conventional farming. Multivitamin, most important. Now, if you're trying to move food through, exercise does improve digestion. So if you struggle to move food through your digestive tract, exercise increases digestion, increases the motility of the intestinal tract. So while you might have heard I just read a Christian book called Winning the War in Your Mind, which I would strongly recommend for anybody struggling mentally with our current era or lockdowns or all the other stuff that's going on. Winning the War on Your Mind is an excellent book. But one of the things he talks about is, growing up, if you were told that you couldn't swim for 30 minutes after you eat, he points out that accepted as fact was never a proven thing. It was just a recommendation that became essentially gospel in the swimming pools because parents were afraid of drowning, and rightfully so, trying to protect their children. But it was actually a completely false study. There's no research that shows that you should wait to eat after swimming. Well, similarly with exercise, immunity, and I could go into all the other things, but exercise helps with digestion. So keep that in mind. Now, damaging your gut, big component of this is toxins, heavy metals. You get heavy metals from everything from the metal in your teeth to vaccinations to very poorly processed vitamins. So another reason not to take cheap vitamin supplements is they can have heavy metals in them. Heavy metals are prevalent in fatty fish that are farm raised, but also things glyphosate is another name for Roundup. So when you spray plants, again, non-organic stuff like Cheerios, they has glyphosate or Roundup residues in it. So, it can kill off bacteria in your gut. It affects metabolism of gut bacteria. So toxins are a huge reason that people have damage to their gut health. So again, getting back to detoxing, the detox supplement can really improve digestive function. And another reason why I was talking about restoring your liver is one of the things that protects you on this. And your liver has what they call, one of the things is your body's number one antioxidant is glutathione. Talked about this in a lot of different master classes, but glutathione is kind of like gas in your car. If you build it, depending on how much you use it, depends on how much you burn through it, and your body has to remake it. So like green cruciferous vegetables have most of the precursors for making more glutathione, and a lot of people don't eat enough of them, but a lot of people also consume way too many toxins. So it'd be like trying to drive long distances and not stop for gas. It's an easy way for you to damage your body and your health. And again, detoxing is a huge, huge component of that. Now, the other component that I want to touch on briefly is stress. So you have two different types of nerve systems. You have your sympathetic, which is also known as your fight or flight nerve system, and your parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest nerve system. So in certain countries, like I would say this is more famous in Europe, but taking that longer quote unquote siesta, I know that I personally fight that. I don't want to take, a whole hour for lunch or something like that. I like to eat on the go or eat quickly or just pick something up or take it with me and eat in the car, whatever it might be. But if you don't relax your nervous system, if you don't relax the stress, if you don't slow down to eat and enjoy the food, you actually stay too much in fight or flight and you don't digest as effectively. So calming down, some deep breathing, drinking a glass of water and like sitting down for a true meal, this is actually shown to help with digestive function. So additionally, mental stress. So this is, and we talked about this a ton in the heart health seminar, but meditation, getting enough sleep, taking the stress off your body. Exercise, of course, is good for that too, but this affects digestion. So if you're living a high stress, even if it's a high mental stress or fast eating on the go, this affects your digestion. Of course, the spine, your neurology, being able to regulate it affects your digestion. This is why chiropractic care is so beneficial, and so many people notice that they digest their food better and have more energy. So it's not how the stressor, but how you respond to the stressor. So just keep that in mind. For as far as, gut health or loving your guts, we're not going to focus a ton on it, but know that your stress level and your speed do affect a healthy gut or healthy digestion. All right. So part 1 of 2 of the mystery words is smart. So just so you know, the part number 2 is smart. And number 3 is action. So number 2, and then number 3 is action. So 3 words all in between the 2 master classes to get it. Now, last thing I want to talk about before we conclude this seminar is, again, the summary. 74% of Americans have a gut health issue, which affects serious problems in their body, from everything from increased levels of pain, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, the works. So changing the way that you eat, balancing your digestive tract, or getting help through our integrative clinic, or talking to your Max Living chiropractor about it, and make a huge deal. One of the things that we picked up are these Love Your Guts recipe books. So we purchased these specifically for those people that want to really take action and are looking for some new recipes or just things that you can do. So these are going to have digestion healthy recipes. So the first 40 people that turn in their mystery words get the Love Your Guts recipe book. And additionally, anyone that shares the content on their page, anybody that shares these seminars on their Facebook page, also gets a Love My Guts recipe book. So share it or be one of the first 40 or both. Pay it forward, love on people, get real, true information, and support the people you love, create community and culture. Love and appreciate you guys. Have a very